Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we are back with Ryan, and Ryan is going to give us his updated offseason plan. Obviously, we are in the lockout right now, so don't really know when baseball is going to be going in baseball free agency in this case, but Ryan wanted to give an offseason plan. So for today's episode, he's going to go through it. He's going to be pretty concise in what's going on in the deal, so it's not going to be like a thorough explanation. However, we're going to go back and we're going to have another recording maybe in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and go back and record again with Ryan. And we're going to go over some of the talking points that you guys want to hear in more depth. So I know there's a few guys that probably are some names that people are a little bit more polarizing for the fans. And maybe you're like, hey, why would you want this guy? I think this guy sucks. Why, like, sell me on him. And so if we get enough of those, we're going to go back and we're going to kind of take like what you guys want to hear most about, and then we're going to discuss that. But without further ado, Ryan, you want to start going through your offseason plan and what you think, what additional moves that the Padres haven't made already that you want to see them make that will kind of put them into a spot where they're going to be in contention next year.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one because obviously we did the last one a couple months ago, and that was pretty easy because all I had to do was, it was beginning of the off season, no sign free agents. So I said to slash payroll and then, sign whoever the hell I wanted to projected deals. And, that was pretty easy. It wasn't really much of a challenge. This one, however, was a little bit more of a challenge. I had to be more creative. AJ Preller's already made moves. He signed Nick Martinez. He's going to be our fifth starter. He signed Robert Suarez and Luis Garcia. You're welcome for those ideas, AJ. And he signed a few minor leaguers, Nomar Mazara, people like that, depth. But what I wanted to focus on here was what I focused on my last one, which was adding power to the lineup. A lot of people talk about how pitching depth was an issue, and 100% it was. But if you look at our rotation right now, we have 6 starting pitchers. Sure, Mike Clevenger, Chris Paddock could be hurt, but I mean, too many people focus on what would happen if they got hurt as opposed to what would happen if they were all healthy. If you sign another big league starter and they're all healthy, guess what? You got to pay someone millions of dollars to sit in AAA. Let's not do that. Let's just, get guys that are actually AAA players. But we were 21st in slugging last year, so I wanted to make a lot of power additions to the lineup. I added guys who probably would project to over 100 home runs combined, 4 of them. And total additions to the payroll would be about 25 million. So let's get into it. I don't want to waste anyone else's time talking about it. Before we begin, we're going to make 2 assumptions that of something that happens before we go through with this plan. Number 1, after the lockout, there's going to be a raise of the luxury tax threshold. Right now it's at 210 million. Our payroll sits at 214 million. Obviously, that's a problem because if we stay over the luxury tax going into next year, we're going to incur some pretty significant penalties since this is our second time going over it. Number 2, I should probably clear that up. During the collective bargaining negotiations, one of the things that is pretty much guaranteed to happen is they're going to raise the luxury tax threshold probably to 230, 240 million. It's probably not going to be completely implemented starting next year, but they're going to slowly start raising it up. And number 2, the second assumption we're going to make is that Eric Hosmer gets traded with Luis Campusano to some team. There's a bunch of teams that are in on him right now, trying to get Campusano for however much money they seem as fair. There's 3 team deals and stuff happening. AJ Preller just traded for Jorge Alfaro coming out of the lockout. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen. He's going to package Hosmer with Campusano. He's been trying to do it for 2 years now. It's going to happen before Hosmer gets his 10-5 rights. So we're going to assume luxury tax goes up. Hosmer and at least most of his contract goes with Campusano because he's worth that. We have about 20 to 30 million to spend. Let's go spend it. So first trade I'm going to look at my notes here just to make sure I don't mess anything up. We're going to trade Victor Caratini to the Baltimore Orioles for 2 unranked prospects, Robert Newstrom, 25-year-old outfielder, and 23-year-old starting pitcher named Kyle Bernovich. I'm going to have you guys interact with me real quick. Are you ready? You don't have to unmute. By show of fingers, how many catchers do you think the Orioles have on their 40-man roster right now? Matt was right. They have 0. Very bold strategy. I would love to watch John Means try to pitch to himself on the mound and then run back to home plate and try to catch it. But I'm going to assume that they're going to try to at least add one catcher to pair with Adley Rushman, who's most likely going to be coming up either to start the season or somewhere in 2022. Victor Caratini fits that mold perfectly. He's got a great reputation as a pitch caller. They have a horrible pitching staff that needs someone to help guide them through it. They've had Pedro Severino, who I don't even know if he technically counts as a catcher back there calling pitches. He's gone now. All of their catchers are gone. So Caratini had a great year 2019. He's got a good reputation as a pitch caller. I think they'll be willing to make a deal for him. Robert Newstrom, 25-year-old outfielder, left-hander, can play left field and right field pretty well. Good power, decent bat. He's not a top 30 prospect, but he could be a late bloomer, kind of a Jake Cronenworth type at the very best, if not good outfield depth AAA. Kyle Bernovich, not a top 30 prospect either. He was traded to them in the Dylan Bundy deal. Sits low 90s, decent changeup, good command. He's got a great curveball, though. Anytime I see a guy in the upper minor leagues who has good numbers and he's got a good pitch to build around, I'm immediately interested because I feel like having a solid pitch is a solid base to build around. He could be starting pitching depth at the upper minor league levels, which we need. He could potentially even be a reliever down the line built around his curveball. So that's deal number 1. And we will move down to deal number 2. So I got to switch out to my notes. So the next deal is going to be kind of a complicated one because there's a couple different ways we could go about this. But either way, it's going to end up with us getting a starting pitcher named James MacArthur from the Philadelphia Phillies. Can't remember his age. We're going straight through this, so I'm not even going to look it up. He's on the older side. He's a bit of a late bloomer. Touches 97. He's got a solid curveball, decent changeup, improving command. He's nowhere near next in line in terms of the 5th spot in the Phillies rotation. So they'll be willing to deal him for bullpen help, which the Phillies desperately need. And I think the Padres are going to work themselves in there either as a straight up trade or a 3-team deal. For the straight up trade, I think no matter what, I'd send Emilio Pagan there in this deal. And if we're going to do a straight up trade, it's going to take another guy with a little bit of upside. So how about Michel Baez? He's coming off of Tommy John surgery, former top 100 prospect. I think his future as a starting pitcher is no more, especially after the surgery, but he still have tons of upside as a reliever. He's touched 98, 99 before. He has multiple pitches he can go to get a strikeout. So we could also work a 3-team deal with the Minnesota Twins. They'll be willing to trade Taylor Rogers, their closer. He's coming off of a really good year where he got really unlucky, but he was actually, in terms of peripherals, one of the better closers in the league. The Phillies would be all over that. Like I said, they desperately need bullpen help. So we could work a 3-team deal where we would send Estieri Ruiz to the Twins. The Phillies would send a couple prospects, Hao-Ju Lee and Griff McGarry, to the Twins for Taylor Rogers to go there, and then we would get MacArthur. But bottom line, that's who we're getting. He's 25 years old, I think. He's got solid upside as a starting pitcher. Not a top 30 prospect, but another guy we can put in AA, AAA, and could potentially eat innings for us given an emergency. I know for a lot of people, adding starting pitching depth to the upper minor leagues was important. I'm personally trading away a couple of them from our organization here, so I wanted to make sure that we at least maintain that. So next trade we're going to do is for Josh Bell. We're going to start getting into the big deals here now. So Bell's we've talked about him a lot on the channel. Switch hitter, power from both sides. You know, he's really solid. He has really improved his defense since coming over to the Nationals from Pittsburgh, which his defense was a huge reason why he had so little value. And his batted ball profile outside of his ground balls was actually a little bit better than it was in 2019 when he hit 37 home runs. He needs to fix his launch angle. Michael Berdard, who's our new hitting coach, specializes in that. So that could be a perfect fit. He would replace Hosmer at first base with his improved defense. And in order to get him, I don't think he would be very expensive. 1-year rental, going to make about $9-10 million. When we traded Adam Frazier, who I think was of similar value, he only got us 2 unranked prospects in Corey Rosier and Ray Kerr. So I'm going to add a little bit more for Josh Bell. We're going to trade them Agustin Ruiz. He's our number 28 prospect. He's 22 years old, left-handed outfielder. He had a good year in A Advanced, struggled a little bit in AA, but he was a little bit younger than the competition there. He's got really solid left-handed power. The Nationals don't have a lot of outfield prospects in their top 30. I think only 3 out of their top 30 prospects were actually outfielders. So they'll be looking for an outfield prospect. Ruiz is plus power, so that seems like a good match. James Norwood is also going to be going there. James Norwood had a couple appearances out of the bullpen for the Padres in 2021. He throws 100 miles per hour. He's got a nice splitter, struggles with his command, but if you ever looked at the Nationals bullpen, he would immediately become one of the better arms probably. They don't really have anyone out of that bullpen other than Mason Thompson, who we also gave them. So they'll be looking for bullpen help. Norwood's got a lot of control, and he's got some good stuff. So we'll send him over there. And then Charlize Aquino would be the third member of that deal. Very young shortstop. He's about 18, 19 years old. He's got a 6'2" frame. He's only 165 pounds. So he's got a lot of room to grow there. It's basically a lottery ticket for the Nationals, but it's a pretty solid lottery ticket. He's really athletic. He can stick at shortstop. Best case scenario, you got a 6'2" athletic shortstop. If he fills out, he could end up hitting for power as well. So you never know. Yeah, that's it for that one. Oh, I might as well add that part of the reason I'm so willing to deal him and I'm going to deal another teenage shortstop is because AJ Preller just signed every single Dominican shortstop that is in existence right now. So we've got plenty of depth there. He signed like 10 during the international signing period. So our next trade, this is going to be the one where we're going to probably be giving up the most, kind of tied with the one coming after that. But we're going to trade for Austin Meadows of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays, they're notorious for not wanting to pay their guys their arbitration deals. We just talked about Franmil Reyes not too long ago, and the difference in this situation is Meadows is going to be making probably a little bit more. He's projected to make 4 to 5 million. And the Rays have guys that are ready to come up and play outfield for them. Josh Lowe, yes, they have another guy with the last name Lowe that's a top prospect. He's ready to come up, left-handed hitter, very athletic. He's got some good power. He could take over that spot that Austin Meadows fills in that lineup immediately and probably be even better because Meadows isn't a great fielder. Lowe is. So we would take Meadows and we would give up Joshua Mears. Obviously, he's the exit velocity guy. No one really wants to trade him, but he's the highest prospect I'd be willing to give up. Rays will be all over him. They love analytics. They'll love the fact that he knocks the you-know-what out of the ball. He could easily replace Meadows' power that they're giving up. Ethan Elliott's also going to go there. He's our number 12 prospect. The Rays like to have a lot of different guys that can throw from a lot of different angles, different speeds. Elliott's a left-hander, throws kind of sidearm. He's got some weird kinks in his delivery. He's got a really, really good changeup, good slider. Fastball is not very hard, tops out at maybe 92. So we're not really going to miss him that much, but the Rays know how to use him a lot more effectively than us. They'll be all over him too. Last prospect going is unranked. It's Nerwillian Cedeno, not to be confused with Oliver Cedeno, who we just signed during the international signing period. Left-handed shortstop, 17, 18 years old, kind of in that range. He's got good plate discipline. He's got a good frame, good left-handed swing, good at shortstop, potential 5 tools, the kind of guy that really any team would be willing to, have included in a trade as a lottery pick. Why Austin Meadows? Well, he's got a great launch angle, highest fly ball percentage in the league, really easy floor of 30 home runs. He's coming off of a not very good year, so we'd be buying low on him, but even during that year, he hit 27 home runs. If you look at his splits, though, he has an 871 OPS against right-handers And if you pair him with Will Myers, who it would take a prospect to move, who has an 828 OPS against left-handers, you get a really, really good platoon. I actually crunched the numbers, and while this isn't absolute, the slash line you'd get from them combined in 2021, if you combine Meadows' right-handed splits and Will's left-handed splits, they would have hit 225, 346 on base, 512 slugging, 858 OPS. If you move them from right field where they both suck to left field where they both don't suck, then they play about average defense. That comes out to roughly the same value as Michael Conforto was worth in 2019 for the Mets. Very similar numbers there. He was worth about 4 wins above replacement per Fangraphs. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty much the production, not necessarily offensively, but overall, you get out of signing someone like Nick Castellanos or Kyle Schwarber to play corner outfield. It's only high amount of money for that 1 year. Then Will Myers can walk. We can buy out his contract. And you don't have to lose any draft picks because Schwarber and Castellanos both got qualifying offers. So you lose a second and fifth round pick. Second round pick, that's a 50 future value. So you don't want to lose that. So trade for Austin Meadows, give up a couple decent prospects, but you immediately couple him with Myers and you get great production out of left field. Finally, we are going to make a very interesting trade. This could either be a 3-team deal or a straight up trade. This is going to be with the New York Yankees, and this is probably my favorite one on here. And the prospects we're going to be trading, I'm going to go through them before I get to the players because I think this is a really interesting one. We're going to trade Reese Kinnear. He's our number 9 prospect, one of our top guys in terms of starting pitching depth. I want to remind everyone that even though he does have a great fastball changeup combo and he was great at AAA, at the major league level, he could not find the strike zone if you told him his life depended on it. We trade Aggie Rosari, who was an infielder, just came off a great season in AA, flashed all 5 tools. Max Ferguson, 4th-round draft pick, good plate discipline for a second baseman. He's a solid left-handed hitter. And this trade is going to be with the New York Yankees. And in return, we're going to be getting Luke Voight and Steven Ridings. I might have to explain this one a little bit, but Luke Voight has great career numbers. Right now, his value is at an all-time low. One of the common criticisms of AJ Preller is he buys high on too many people and he gets screwed at the end. Jurickson Profar. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of guys. Yu Darvish, that's another one that a lot of people reference. Luke Voight, on the other hand, you'd be buying his value at an all-time low. If you look at his career numbers, he is a phenomenal power hitter. He has an 867 career OPS. He's only been able to play one full season because injuries, but that's not really a big factor, just some bad timing. Played in AAA a lot in 2019, I believe. 2020 was a shortened season due to COVID. But 2020, people forget, he led MLB in home runs. He hit 22 home runs that year. He just had some insane seasons. I think 1 year he almost hit for an OPS over 1,000. There was a couple years where he was on pace to hit over 50 home runs. This is a guy who, even at his worst, could probably hit 30 to 40 home runs in a full season. And my suggestion is we're bringing in Josh Bell. We're going to have the DH spot open. Put Luke Voight there. Part of the reason his value has been so low in his entire career is because he's a terrible defensive first baseman. Put him at DH. You don't have to worry about his glove, and you're going to probably get fantastic offensive value out of him. And only for the price of what he really is now. The Yankees are motivated to get rid of him, and we should be all over that. I'm also going to acquire Steven Ridings in this deal. Bottom line, I think this guy can close at the major league level starting next year. 6'8", 220 pounds, can hit 100 miles per hour on the fastball. He has a really good mid-80s slider. And what stands out to me most of all is he does not walk anybody. He has got fantastic command. In about 30 innings of the minor league, struck out 42 batters, only walked 4 overall. You don't really see that in too many guys that throw as hard as he does. So he'd come over, he'd join the bullpen group that, we're trading Pagan, Norwood, potentially Baez. This could also be a 3-team deal with Oakland. The Yankees love not Luke Voight. Yankees love Matt Olson. So potentially something can be worked out there where we get Voight in writings. We send our prospects to Oakland, who would want prospects more than the Yankees would. And Oakland sends Olson to the Yankees for better prospects from them. So that should do it for the trades. And then I have one last move to make. It's a signing, and that is going to be a 4 to 5 year deal worth around $9 to $10 million. And that is going to be for Japanese outfielder Seiya Suzuki. So at the beginning of the offseason, I did not want Suzuki. If you look at a lot of the guys that have come over from Japan or Korea in recent years, a lot of them have just completely fell flat of their projections, not just regressed, but done really poorly. And as I was putting this plan together, I started thinking, well, if you have Myers and Meadows taking up 2 roster spots, that means that one of them is going to be the backup outfielder every day. And that means your right fielder has to be very strong defensively, because they need to back up Trent Grisham in center field. Well, Suzuki is a 4-time Gold Glove Award winner in Japan. I don't know. I think they call it the Gold Glove there. I can't remember the actual name of the award there, but he's won it 4 times for his work in right field. Great defender, great arm. And so I started looking at his offensive numbers, and one thing I realized about this guy is that he blows everyone away that has come over offensively from either Japan or Korea the past couple of years. Even Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani's close, but Suzuki is an even better hitter than he is coming off of his last year. He had an OPS of 1069, which is just phenomenal. Great power hitter, really good plate discipline. One thing I did was I ran a couple numbers where I took 5 players that have come over recently, and I did like the average regression in a lot of major stats. And Suzuki, even if he regressed at the lowest point to where people like Ha-seong Kim and Shogo Akiyama have, where they've come over and just done abysmally, even if he regressed on their level, he'd still have an OPS of around 800. So, I mean, I think there's a really high floor and ceiling for this guy coming over. Great discipline, really powerful hitter. And even if his offense is nowhere near as good as it was in Japan, he still plays such good defense that he's going to make up for it. So that's it. That's all the moves. And let's just look at the lineup that we have here. I'm going to read it off my phone. So with all of this put together, you'd have Jake Cronenworth leading off, Fernando Tatis Jr. batting second, Manny Machado batting third, Austin Meadows and Will Myers with platoon hitting 4th in the lineup, or 6th in Myers' case. Josh Bell would hit 5th, playing first. Luke Voight, 6th, playing DH. Seiya Suzuki would bat 7th, playing right field. Trent Grisham would bat 8th, playing center field. And Austin Nola would bat 9th, playing catcher. If you look at the numbers, you got 20 home runs out of Cronenworth, about probably 40 out of Fernando, 30 out of Machado, 30 out of Meadows and Myers combined, 30 out of Bell, probably 30 out of Voight, 15, 20 out of Suzuki, 15 to 20 out of Grisham, and maybe 10 to 15 out of Nola. That's a 200 home run lineup. That's just ridiculous. Top to bottom, everyone's a serious power threat. Maybe not Austin Nola, but he's still a decent hitter, and plus he's a catcher. So, that he doesn't necessarily have to be a big power threat. But the reason I like this plan so much, and the reason I'm committed to it, is because you don't lose anything in terms of like draft picks by signing someone who received a qualifying offer. You keep the farm strong, which is what I want to focus on the most. The highest value prospect we're trading away is Josh Mears. That 2nd round draft pick alone in 2022, if we don't sign someone like Nick Castellanos, that'll replace Josh Mears in the pipeline for us. You come out with a stronger farm. The payroll would still fit. That's about $25-30 million. Some combination of trading Hosmer and a raise in the luxury tax would allow that to fit. And you're not just adding one or two guys to this offense that really, really needs a lot of power boost. They only, like I said, they only rank 21st in slugging percentage. You're adding four guys who can hit for power. And overall, the lineup would receive about 100 or so more home runs. That's at least 100 or more runs in the season. So, overall, I like this team a lot better after these moves. If you guys have any questions, obviously I was trying to rush through this. So, some things might not be explained. If you have any questions whatsoever, please comment them because I'd love to go back and go through this more in depth. Like I said, I was just kind of rushing through this. So this is about as bare bones as it could possibly get. Also, this is going to be released as an article through the East Village Times. There's going to be a lot more information. So you can look for East Village Times on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, and you'll get a lot more information about why I'm making these moves, how the roster would stack up afterwards. And yeah, that's what I got. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so I'm just going to try and be as brief as possible. I wrote down the notes that I like. Caratini gone. You don't really deserve a personal cash hit for your ERA above 4. And he wasn't any major contribution to the lineup other than the beginning of the season. He had some clutch moments, but provides no power, provides no speed. I think Austin Nola is a better play caller. So I think pitch caller, not play caller. So I think we already have something a lot better than Caratini. Emilio Pagan, in my notes, I spelled it Pagone because, we all know why. He allows a lot of home runs, I think he has a weak fastball. We signed him back, but I don't really, even if he's on this team, I don't see a major role out of him. You guys know, I don't like Michelle Baez, or however you say it. I really don't. I personally think he sucks, but that's a move that I like. I like him gone. And MacArthur is kind of similar, I'd say. I don't know in terms of height or anything, but velocity. Josh Bell comes. It doesn't really take me a lot to sell me on Josh Bell. I think offensively, you look at his baseball savant, it's very similar to Manny Machado's for everyone that loves Manny. Very similar. Cleaned up his defense in 2021 when prior he was awful at defense. He's definitely cleaned it up. He's put in a lot of work to be a better first baseman. I like that a lot about him. I think it shows off his work ethic, and I think there's better things to come out of him at first. And Austin Meadows, it's going to take me a little bit to get sold on him. 2018 had some good numbers. 2019 was an all-star type player. He actually was an all-star, had a really, really solid year out of him. 2020 only played 36 games, pretty lackluster. 2021, I don't know how many games he played, but he was back to like his 2018 form, I want to say. I'm not entirely sure. But it's a guy that you can buy low on, a fun player to have in your lineup, and you guys know how I feel about having Myers as an everyday player. I'm not as optimistic for him. But it's a decent idea. It's going to take me a little bit for it to grow on me. Luke Voight, that one is cool to me because he's not going to play first. That is the only reason. Other than that, I think that's a cool addition. Hits a lot of home runs. I brought it up a lot of times before. The teams that made the playoffs ended up as top 10 teams in home runs, slugging percentage, OPS, lowest ground ball rates in the league. Like, you need to be able to hit the ball in the air, and I think that's what, a couple of these guys provide you. What's the next one? We get rid of Reese Kinnear. Don't really mind that. Seiya Suzuki. So you guys, for those who've watched our Suzuki video, I was pessimistic at first. I'm getting more optimistic as time comes, hearing about how good his defense is, his speed. We're all very concerned about how he will adapt to the MLB, but that's the kind of guy that and Matt or Ryan, I think you said like 9 to 10 million. I think it'll be around 12, which still isn't bad. Only 2 more million, and it's a lot better than, let's be realistic, it's a lot better than signing somebody like Castellanos or Schwarber. Because you get power out of the the 10 mil from Josh Bell, the 5 mil from Luke Voight, and I don't know how much Meadows is, but you're getting power out of them. 4, like, see how cheap that is? That's as much as you'd get out of one player. So the Suzuki move's growing on me. I think, it'll take him a little bit of time, but, he'll be all right. And then you brought up the lineup: Jake, Tati, Manny, Meadows, Bell, Voight, Seiya, Grish, and Nola. I probably like Fernando leadoff just because now that you have that extra DH, I'm gonna put Grisham at the 9 spot, kind of as your second leadoff, and then you have Grisham, Tatis, um, Jake, whoever you want there. I think that's my type of lineup. But I like the rest of it. I like quite a bit of these moves. I think the Voight move and the Suzuki move are still a little down for me, but I personally like the Suzuki more than I like Meadows.
Yeah, I'm on board with Isaac. Basically the same thing. I like the Suzuki move a lot. I think, people just have to realize that Japan has some serious talent that, can really transform the MLB landscape and everything. I've been saying that for a while, and Otani's kind of proved it. It's just they, expect them to perform right away. They don't usually get the time to transition to it. Even Otani, he took a couple of years until, he reached his MVP form that we saw this year. Yusei Kikuchi finally hit his stride this year. It took him 3 years. So, it takes 2 to 3 years for them to completely transition to the MLB. So even like Ryan said, even if he regresses to the worst possible, an 800 OPS, I think would be, the third best on this team last year, if not fourth. That would be an instant upgrade, and out of all the outfielders, it would have been the best. Gonna have to be sold on Austin Meadows and Luke Voight. I know Luke Voight has some like major power and he hits a lot of home runs, but it's just his health and he tends to get injured from what I've seen from Yankees Twitter. That's my only concern. But yeah, other than that, if he goes to how he was hitting in 2020, this lineup would be unstoppable. So yeah, I really like that offseason fine.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I think one thing to also consider when you go through these offseason plans is it's not like the Padres have like a ton of cash to be dealing with. They don't have a lot of money, so like you have to be cost effective in these moves. And we've talked about Nelson Cruz in the past. We've talked about it with you in the past too, Ryan. And your reason why you don't have Nelson Cruz is because you think it's too expensive. You just don't think it's a practical move based on the money they have. And the question is, how much more are they willing to spend? Because maybe that's the difference of them getting Luke Voigt or going and getting Nelson Cruz, and they're like, hey, it's worth it for us to pay however much extra money than we normally would because we like Nelson Cruz that much more. So maybe there are those kind of factors in play that change us out. But obviously, you're trying to keep the salary under the luxury tax. So you have to like keep that in mind. That it's not like this is Ryan's favorite player that he could add. Like obviously not. Obviously, like there are some guys that are more like appealing than Luke Voigt and Austin Meadows. But I definitely like the overall idea of what's being done to the lineup. I like Seiya Suzuki if that's going to be the big move we're going to make. I like that a lot more than Castellanos. And I might even like that a little bit more than Bryant too, because Bryant's going to make a lot of money. Like him more than Schwarber. Like I think it's the move that you can make that's like, it is like a swing for the fences because you are trying to land like a superstar player, because go look at his numbers in Japan. They are ridiculous. But you're also like like you said, if he goes like all the way down to 800, and I'll even take it down even further. If he goes to a 750 OPS, he's still going to be a plus defender. He still has speed. He still has power. Like there's so many things to like about him that it outweighs like some of the issues. And that's the problem with these Castellanos deals is like, okay, Castellanos is the worst defending right fielder. Like, is that what we're going after? Like, is that what we want? So I definitely think that I like him opposed to a lot of the other deals. And then, of course, Josh Bell. Ryan, I know you're a big believer in Josh Bell. I am as well. I mean, I feel like we've been our show's been hyping him up like all offseason. So definitely a fan of that. But yeah, I think that kind of does it for this one. Anyone, let us know if there's specific moves that you want us to talk about. We'll go back and we will do that for these. But Ryan, thanks so much. Much longer video today, but super fun to go through it and talk about all these moves. But with that said, that's gonna do it for today's episode. So we'll talk to you guys very soon.